Namaste guys, ChristianRLong, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out from my meditation cushion here in Denver, Colorado on a very cold, snowy evening. Snowy, like 17 degrees. Maria, Namaste. I don't think this might be your second time on the stream. Welcome. And I want to jump on real quick. As you guys know, we talk about meditation, energy healing, and practical spirituality. And working with a client today, she asked a very simple but very profound question. She asked me, and we've been working together for about 2 years, and she asked me the question, why aren't I enlightened yet? Why aren't I enlightened yet? And I thought about it and I go, that's a really good question. But you would have to first define what enlightenment is, right? If you ask 10 people what enlightenment is, you'll probably get 11 different answers. Because for the uninitiated, for the novice, or we say the neophyte, the newbie, they don't have even the theoretical understanding of enlightenment, never mind the experiential understanding of enlightenment. So how do they talk about that, right? So you first have to qualify and quantify what enlightenment is. Bernie, Namaste. And I was thinking about two quotes that we talked about this book a little bit yesterday, This Life is Joy by Roger Teal. And at the end of the first chapter, he uses two quotes. And one of the quotes is by one of my favorite spiritual teachers of all time. So the first quote is by Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the New Thought Church in the 20s, I believe. Stephen says, we use medication, practical energy healing on this own physical body, including stroke prevention and maintenance. Lucky for me, light is shared on the medical challenges. This allows me to keep in the light what needs to be done to stay in the safe, healthy zone. Indeed. Avani, Namaste. Ted, Namaste. Always good to have you on. So the two quotes at the end of this chapter in the book, This Life is Joy, Ernest Holmes says, that which you are searching for, you are searching with. And then Ramana Maharishi, great spiritual teacher as well, there is no greater mystery than this, that we keep seeking reality, though, in fact, we are reality. Because with this particular client, she knows, theoretically and intellectually, that she is light, love, and power, the essential aspects of the soul, right? When you take away our physical body, our emotional body, and our mental body, so our physical beingness, our feelings, and our thoughts, when you take away all of those things, what do you have left over? The soul. Light, love, and power. The aspect of what you are. Back up and namaste, right? It's fascinating, right? When you think about it from a mental standpoint, okay, I'm light, love, and power, which means X, Y, and Z. I still have a physical body that feels pain. I still have emotions that can feel good or not feel good. And I can have thoughts about this thing or thoughts about that thing. Okay. So where does enlightenment fit into this whole equation? And I'd like to give you the example that Grandmaster Chola Koksui gave many years ago, that he says the difference between a saint and a savage is not the quality of the connection to their higher selves, but the quantity of the connection to their higher selves. Meaning, if you take a drop of water, qualitatively, a drop of water is exactly equal to the ocean, right? Qualitatively, they're exactly the same. Quantitatively, they are not. Within the atmosphere, right? Within the air, there's water molecules, right? Why can't you just drink the water molecules from the air? Because it's qualitatively exactly the same. Quantitatively, it is not. So that's the difference between a saint and a savage. is a saint has a bigger spiritual pipe connecting their little selves to their bigger selves, and they have reached a level of self and soul realization. They know intellectually and experientially they are the soul, right? The savage, because their connection quantitatively is very, very small, they have no even intellectual understanding, never mind, they don't even have the intellectual awareness of something beyond the physical world, right? Everything is physical. The search for food, the search for sex, the search for power, dominance, conquering, right? They're totally enamored and enmeshed within the materialistic physical world. Fascinating, right? So enlightenment is the gradual process of recognizing that yes, you have a physical body, yes, you have feelings, yes, you have thoughts, but you are not those things, you are the soul. As I understand it, this is the reason why a saint does not have to meditate, because the connection between their little self, their incarnated soul, is substantially merged with their higher soul. So the pipeline of communication between the lower self and the higher self and the higher self and the lower self is very big and it's instantaneous. Have you ever had a problem in your life and you don't know what to do to resolve that problem? And you ask God, or you pray, or you ask for assistance, and that answer, even though given instantly from the higher soul, may take you days, weeks, months, or even years to get the answer, to get the clarity, because the pipe, your pipe to your higher self is small. The bigger the pipe, the greater the faster the access to the answers that we've been seeking to resolve the issues in our lives or problems or what have you. So that, I thought that was such a really good question of her. She was asking the question, well, why am I not enlightened now? What's the missing thing? The missing thing is the quantity of the downpour of spiritual energy and the connection to that quantity of spiritual energy, not the quality. Again, qualitatively, we're all connected to God. Qualitatively, we're all divine children of God. But quantitatively, that's the missing link. So how do we increase the quantity of divine energy coming into our lives? Well, a very simple technique is regular prayer. So in the morning and the evening, you say your prayers, that connects you. And that connection can stay stronger the more aware you are of the divine energies above. Doing your meditation practices regularly, another way of making you more conductive to the quantity of divine energy. Doing purification practices, and there's many, many different purification practices that are taught within Arhatic Yoga and pranic healing. Those help open up the channels and allow more more quantity of divine energy to come into our systems, right? So Stephen says, we open our heart chakra first in order for our crown to stay open better. A saint is already based in the heart, brain, and even the gut brain. Yes, the head brain, right? Heart rate coherence. Lining up the energy centers helps control the central channel, thus increasing spiritual cord. When in doubt, stay in the heart, stay in service, do lots of prayer for self and others. Correct. Yeah. So as the heart becomes more activated, the crown becomes more activated, it expands the spiritual connection, more quality of spiritual energy comes into our beingness, right? And then we start to become masterful of our vehicles. Mastery of the physical body, mastery over our feelings, and mastery over our thoughts. And as Stephen is saying here, it starts with the heart. How do we activate the heart? Through prayer, through the Twin Hearts meditation regularly, through service to others, through receiving healing, through giving healing, through being generous with our thoughts, our words, our physical resources and finances. All of those things expand the heart. As the heart expands, the crown expands. As the crown expands, more divine energy comes into our system. That divine energy takes control over our lower vehicles, our mental body, our emotional body, our physical body, and we walk the path of righteousness. We walk the path of the Tao, or as the Lord Buddha would say, the middle path, which, as I understand it, is not very easy to do. It's actually very, very difficult. Of the virtues that we talk about in pranic healing, and we work with 5 major virtues: loving kindness and non-injury, generosity and non-stealing, accurate perception, correct expression, constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness, and the last one, moderation and non-excessiveness, is the harmonizing factor for all the other virtues. So sometimes you need to be very loving and very kind. Other times you need to be willful and severe, right? It depends on the situation, and it depends on what lessons and experiences that soul is looking to have in that incarnation, right? So when somebody is in the path of moderation and non-excessiveness, they're constantly adjusting which virtue is appropriate at which time and in which dosage. That requires a tremendous amount of awareness, understanding, constant readjustment, and that's where the middle path, walking the razor's edge, comes from. If you're too much on one side, you fall to this side. If you're too much on that side, you fall to that side. A saint, a holy master and beyond, they are more and more and more and more and more in alignment with the divine plan for themselves, for the people they're responsible for, and ultimately for humanity. So it's quite fascinating. Fernando, Atma Namaste. But isn't that interesting when you talk to people who specialize in a certain area of study, and you ask them a simple question about their area of study, and they go, well, that's a really good question. How do I answer that appropriately? Because, for instance, in the world of meditation, energy healing, and practical spirituality, right? Pretty big topics. Enlightenment would be, you could almost say, at the center point of all of those. And if you ask 5 different people that are experts in that world, like I said, you'll get 6 different answers. Isn't that interesting? Because they're viewing the concept of enlightenment from different viewpoints and different levels of truth, from their level of truth, which may not be your level of truth, right? So there's an old saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. A more accurate way of saying it is, when the student is ready, the right teacher will appear. If you're in first grade and your level of understanding is at a first grade level, you're going to get a first grade teacher or maybe a second grade teacher. You're not going to get a college professor because it's not compatible. It's not necessary for your growth and development to the next grade. Likewise, on the spiritual path, you will get teachers, guides, and mentors at your level of development, right? And sometimes, here's a real interesting kicker, you might get a spiritual teacher, a healer, a coach, a mentor, a guru, who possibly destroys your life from your perspective. You know, they conned me out of all my money, they took advantage of me sexually, they abused me verbally or physically, right? That was the teacher that you were karmically entitled to receive at that point in your development to help A, neutralize some of your ancient negative karma, and B, create a platform for which you to jump or springboard to the next growth and development for your own life. Quite fascinating, right? So even the not so good teachers or guides or mentors that have come into our lives, they still serve the purpose of helping you evolve. For instance, let's say, this was shared by one of the masters in pranic healing, let's say one of your lessons is around discernment. Let's say one of your lessons is around discernment, meaning you don't question anything. You just take everything hook, line, and sinker, right? So this particular master was told certain things that he didn't validate or didn't practice discernment on. And guess what? He was tricked. He was deceived. He was conned. But that was a good experience. Why? Because it taught him the lesson that he needed to learn on discernment, right? And that causes his mind and his analysis and rational faculties to be sharper and to be honed, so he makes better decisions moving forward, right? It's kind of like in business. Would you like to make a $1,000 mistake or $1 million mistake? Which one would you prefer, right? You'd want to make the $1,000 mistake, because if you don't learn the lesson and the stakes go higher and higher and higher, then the fall is going to be even more painful when it eventually and inevitably happens. So reflect on that sometimes we have sometimes we have a not so good experience with a spiritual teacher, a guide, a mentor, a healer, a guru. Take it for what it is. It's still a learning process. It's still helping you grow, evolve, and become better. But our initial point for tonight's talk was my client asking the question, why aren't I enlightened yet? And it's really, when she was saying that to me, I was processing it, saying, if our fundamental nature is light, love, and power, if that's what we are on the soul's level, what is the disconnect? Why are we still suffering? Why do we still have aches and pains in our physical bodies? Why do we still have emotional traumas and outbursts and resentment and argument? Why do we still have lack of accurate perception, correct expression, falsehoods, lies, deceptions, deceit, delusion? Why? It goes back to the original point. It's not the quality of the energy coming into your life, it's the quantity of the energy coming into your life. And your goal from now until you leave this physical body is to keep expanding your capacity to tap into the reservoir. Because think about it. Energetically speaking, if you have an ocean above you that has all the light, all the love, all the power, all the healing, all the things that you would ever need, want, and desire in any way, shape, or form, if it's all hovering above you, but you have a straw plugged into that, how much of that infinite ocean of energy is going to be able to enter your system? Not so much, right? If it's the size of a straw. But what if you grew that straw into the size of a PVC pipe, or a bigger pipe? I don't know what you call it, a sewer pipe. I don't like to say that because it's connected to the higher self. A bigger pipe, right? And then if you keep expanding that pipe more and more, do you think your experience of light, love, and power would increase? Your higher intuition, your inner strength, your mental clarity and insights, right? That's the practice that we have to dedicate our lives to, if that's part of our dharma or part of our calling. Even if we're not consciously aware of the spiritual energies and the spiritual path, we're all on it. But this goes back to the point we were talking about, the path of the Tao, the razor's edge. We can be far on one side, far on another side, but ultimately, as we go back and forth from lifetime to lifetime, it starts to even out, and then we, bam, hit the path of righteousness, and then excel our spiritual growth and development. It's pretty cool, right? So Stephen says we pay attention to in decision-making processes on what expands the field, what expands the spiritual cord, what expands the chakras, what expands the central channel, what expands thought forms. This allows us to know which way to go when faced with various decisions, directions, solutions. Your path and timeline expands when it's good for you. It's a mouthful. It's a good way of looking at it. Which is interesting, of what Stephen says, that as more spiritual energy enters our life, there's expansion, right? Expansion of the aura, expansion of the chakras, which brings out the latent tendencies of the chakras. But what does it also do? More energy also fertilizes the seeds and the negative tendencies that have been put into the chakras over lifetimes of work, lifetimes and lifetimes of experiences. Those little seeds of energy get fertilized. So yes, the more energy, the better, but you also have to purify your vehicles, your physical vehicle, your emotional vehicle, your mental vehicle. You have to purify those vehicles. The example that I give somebody is, have you ever had anger before? Inevitably, somebody will raise their hand and say, yes, I've had anger before, of course. Okay, picture that time when you've been super, super angry, right? Now, add 10 times more energy to that experience of anger, and what do you think your life would look like? It'd be completely chaotic. It would be physically damaging. It would be emotionally damaging. It would destroy relationships, destroy your physical property, right? It's like the Hulk syndrome, out of control. That would be an example of a small amount of anger, and you introduce a tremendous amount of spiritual energy to that, and it magnifies the quality of anger within that person. So that's why purification is super, super, super important on the spiritual path, whether it's pranic healing or hatha yoga or other spiritual schools, religions, and meditation practices. Purification, 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 purification. Super, super, super important. So likewise, imagine you have a deep sense of love and a deep sense of devotion, like a pure heart, right? And then you introduce 10 times more energy to that love aspect within you. How beautiful would that be, right? It'd be amazing. It would be intoxicating, not only for you, but for the people that are within your vicinity. You would be radiating love, right? You ever been around somebody who you just feel calmer and soothed being in their presence? That's partly because that person is radiating love. So whenever I spend time with the pranic healing masters, which is frequent throughout the year, I'm like, oh, I'm in the presence of great love. This is amazing. And I suck it up. I'm not the body, likewise, I'm not the chakras. How seeds of past lives are in chakras. Ah, yes. Okay, so a seed is simply an energy that gets implanted into certain chakras for certain reasons. So let's relate it to the basic chakra. What does the basic chakra deal with? It deals with self-preservation, survival, dynamic activity, prosperity, abundance, and success, right? Ground you. When you have a strong, healthy basic chakra, it grounds you, roots you, connects you to Mother Earth, right? But let's say at some point in your incarnation, you started to hoard resources. Maybe in a tribal scenario of 250 to 500 people, you started to hoard resources. Amelia, Abba Namaste. So you were taking more than you needed to survive, right? Because that tendency was somewhere within your system, right? And who knows how it got there. But let's say that seed was there long, long time ago. That seed can remain dormant in the chakra for lifetimes until you introduce the right circumstances with the right energy, and then that little itty bitty tiny seed of greed now turns into a flower or fruit of greed, and that can potentially destroy your life. Because then you're stealing from work, you're stealing from friends and family members, you're stealing from strangers on the street, because your tendency was a small seed of take, keep for myself, just in case for a rainy day, right? So that's what healing is about. One level of healing is about. It's going in. How come lifetimes? How come the seeds are in lifetimes? Because of, well, as the Lord Buddha teaches us, and see, this is super complex. It's not like a simple answer, but as the Lord Buddha teaches us, all suffering begins in the mind, right? All suffering begins in the mind. So your inaccurate viewpoint about resources led to inaccurate thoughts, right? Or wrong thoughts, wrong words, wrong feelings, wrong actions, wrong livelihood, wrong spiritual practice, wrong awareness, right? So because of that wrong viewpoint, it generated all of this karma that's not so good, and then that karma gets put into the corresponding chakras. So if it's dealing with physical survival, it's going to go into the basic. If it's dealing with sexual desire and lust, it's going to go into the sex. If it deals with excessive power or anger, it's going to go into the solar plexus, right? But it starts with wrong viewpoint. So if you change somebody's viewpoint, you alleviate their suffering. But that doesn't always help if the person's seeds are so fertilized that their life is out of control. That's when they need healing, right? They need healing. And then once they're healed, you give them right viewpoint, which is actually quite fascinating. And this was talked about many, many years ago, that the Lord Jesus taught love and wisdom, and the Lord Buddha taught wisdom and love. So meaning, Lord Jesus, if you were suffering, he would heal you, and then he would say, sin no more, meaning don't do the thing that caused you to have this condition to begin with. The Lord Buddha switched it. The Lord Buddha would give the disciple understanding, and then as they had understanding to their situation, their suffering was gone and they were healed, right? So same effect, different approaches. So Stephen says, healing our past lives allows us to heal karma and ancestors and others involved. This healing process helps our own soul develop, and we transform. We are better able to help others as we heal similar resonance within ourselves. Our own challenges help us develop compassion and other virtues. Yes. The interesting thing is, the three aspects of our soul, light, love, and power, are connected to the virtues. So the more we can connect with what we are, we naturally become virtuous. But in the process of purifying and correcting our viewpoint, stuff comes up. Anger comes up, greed comes up, negative pride comes up, self-delusion comes up. All of these things come up from previous lifetimes of not thinking the right thing, not saying the right thing, not doing the right thing. So that's why it's extraordinarily complex. That's why if you ask 6 people, how do you define enlightenment? You'll get 7 different answers. So my recommendation, do your prayers morning and evening, do your meditation practice daily, do purification practices daily, open your heart, be kind, be loving, be generous on all levels, which opens the crown, brings down more divine energy into your life, and your higher soul can start running the show versus your personality, your ego, and your lower tendencies running the show. One's the adult in charge, the chakras are the children. So practicing the I am the soul affirmation taught by Grandmaster Choa Koksui, extremely helpful in helping you connect up and also identify with the things that you're not. So when you're angry, what do we have a tendency to do? Take it personally. We're the anger. Versus, wait a minute, I'm not this anger. This anger is not me. This anger is not of the soul, anatta. Not of the soul, anatta, right? I am the soul. But it's a practice. That's the big thing that people fail to realize is just because you've heard it once, just because you said the affirmation 7 or 8 times, does not mean you have mastered it. So you have to practice, then master. Make sense? Good. 80% of our negative thoughts are not even ours. Yeah, we have many scientists have validated this study that we have approximately 60,000 thoughts per day. Actually, I calculated, I forget the number right now, but I calculated if I have 60,000 thoughts per day and my body's 39 years old, I did this when I was 38. I actually calculated how many thoughts I've had in my incarnation, and it was like this astronomically high number. It was really funny. Might try it out sometime. 60,000 thoughts a day, multiply it by 365, and then multiply it by how many years you've been on this planet, and then that will give you your total. You'd be like, wow, that's a lot of thoughts. And most of the thoughts that we think, like Avani's saying, are not even our thoughts, because we're swimming in an ocean of other people's thoughts. But a lot of the thoughts that we think are not even productive thoughts. Think about that one. They're not even productive thoughts. So, Stephen says to Avani, doesn't matter in thought forms or others or even genetic. We still need to clear those thoughts, or as scientists would say, clear those chaos frequencies. Yeah, for sure. Look at that. So Avani just did her number of thoughts that she's had in her lifetime. 850,100,000 thoughts. 54. 854,100,000 thoughts in her lifetime. Obviously, as a baby, you're not having too many thoughts, so it's a rough estimate, but it's still pretty high. It's fascinating, right? But every one of those thoughts is an impulse. Is an impulse that we're sending out in the inner world. And whatever you send out comes back to you many, many times. So if you're always sending out thoughts of anger, that's what's coming back to you. If you send thoughts of peace and happiness and joy, that's what's coming back to you, magnified and multiplied. Think about it. Gossip and criticism. Have you ever noticed that people, from my own observations, but I'm sure you can practice it and validate it as a self-evident truth, have you noticed the people who seem to be the most miserable kinds of people are the ones who are always talking negatively and gossiping negatively about other people? You ever notice that? I've looked at people in my life and I go, man, that person does not live a very happy life. And they're always talking poorly of other people. With all of my thoughts of all natural veggie pizza, one would think I would manifest more all natural veggie pizza in my life. You're not karmically entitled, Stephen. That's the problem. Service, tithing, decreeing, you'll be good to go to get all the veggie pizza you could possibly handle. That's a whole other topic. Will says, Stephen, that's awesome. Yeah. I haven't had a good veggie pizza in a hot minute. I'm working on keeping my figure lean and slim. I don't know if you guys caught it from last night's stream. My body is the lightest it's been since I was 15 years old, 154 pounds. Super teeny tiny. Went from 177 to 154 pounds in 1 year. Amazing. With almost no effort at all. The life of a yogi. So that being said, if I can assist you guys with healing, with your spiritual practice, with understanding spiritual teachings, this is all I do pretty much from the moment I awake to the moment I go to bed. Let me know how I can help you. Go to my website, ChristianRLong.com. I was born 150. Yeah, Will, relax. You're all worked up. I'm sure. You're like, I came out, what is it? I came out squatting 300. It was actually interesting. So funny story connected to that. Master Ko, who is an expert at taking care of his physical body, because the stronger the physical body, the higher you can go up in your spiritual practice, right? I found out that as you progress on the spiritual path, the limiting factor is your physical body. So if your physical body is not very strong, if you have high blood pressure, if your heart is weak, if there's some weakness in the body, it prevents you from going higher, right, in your spiritual practice. So I remember seeing Master Ko. He's not the biggest Asian man in the world, and he was sitting down and he was doing 100 and 105 pound dumbbell presses. And I was like, that's amazing. 105 dumbbell presses? Sweet. So I started out at 75 pound dumbbell presses. And then after a year and a half of practice, I went up to 100 pound dumbbell presses for 5 reps. Full reps, not the little half reps, not the little baby reps. Full reps at what? At the time, 170? Not bad. I was like super jacked up about it. I was like, yeah, I did it. Master Ko has always been an inspiration for me for many different reasons. So I was pretty excited about that. But the point is, you have to take care of your physical body. Many spiritual practitioners, because they're always up here, they're always out in the ethers and out in the inner world, traveling to different galaxies and dimensions, right? They're not grounded in their physical bodies. They're not taking care of their physical bodies, and that's a big no-no on the spiritual path if you want to go higher and still be of service. You have to take care of your physical body. Very, 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 very important. Cannot emphasize it enough. Master Glenn even said this past year in 2019. He's in his mid-60s now. He looks amazing. He's been on the keto diet, the keto vegan diet for 9 months now. I think he's lost like 35 or 40 pounds. He looks great. And he says, I wish I would have taken more care of my physical body as a doctor, because his ninja power was to push and to push and to push and to build this practice and to help humanity. So he didn't take the time to take care of his physical body. So now he's encouraging all of us, all the disciples, hey, take care of your physical body. Lose your weight, increase your strength, deepen your meditation practices. So Stephen says, on a serious note, I've had some stroke-like symptoms that are likely more from concussion-related sleep issues. Thanks for any prayers. I'll do what I can to get the neurologist this week. Are you at home now, or are you in the hospital? Taking care of the physical body is super, super, super important if you want to go higher. If you're content, that's why a lot of the saints, many of the Catholic saints, I'm not too sure about Chinese saints, Buddhist saints. I'm very familiar with the Catholic saints in this regard. Many of them left their bodies in their mid-30s because they were so severe with their physical bodies. They didn't take care of their physical bodies, and there are these huge pipelines of divine energy coming down constantly. It's like being plugged into the sun 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It eventually deteriorates the very thing that you're living with, right? You got to take care of your physical body. They didn't know about nutrition. They didn't know about, 24-hour fitness. You're at home, okay, in a cabin at a resort. Get it, son? Got folks around me who knows what's up, taking care of business, and will continue to be cautious. That a boy. Yeah, Stephen has lived a very interesting past few years with a physical body. From years of martial arts and years of abusing your physical body. True or not true? I've had my moments. I've been in mixed martial arts, heavy lifting. I mean, for a little guy, I lift super heavy. When I was doing it, I haven't done it the past 6 months. I have different focuses. But that was putting abuse on my physical body. And I thought to myself, I go, who are the people that are super, super active into their 50s, 60s, and 70s? Who are those people that are super active without, issues with their tendons and their ligaments and their joints, and without having to take steroids, legal, illegal steroids? Who are those people? And I found out certain kinds of martial artists, most all kinds of dancers, most gymnasts, most people that practice calisthenics, which is what I'm working on right now, and most yoga practitioners. Most of all those people can practice what they practice for decades into their 60s, 70s, and 80s, but not so much with, intense runners, intense bodybuilders, full contact martial artists, full power lifters, right? So I'm looking for something that I can become masterful of, that I can practice for the rest of my life. Not like, okay, I got a 10-year window of hitting it super, super hard in the gym. Yeah, but what is that going to do to my lower back? What is that going to do to my joints, to my tendons, my ligaments, right? So something to be aware of. I'm just planting seeds within the minds of you guys. Physical yogis, a lot of the physical, they're called hatha yogis. A lot of the hatha yogis that practice regularly, amazing shape. Super good physical endurance, muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance. Very, very good. And they're flexible, right? Prana can flow through their systems. Chelsea, Atma Namaste. Good to have you on the stream. Yep, 6 known loss. Cody, Atma Namaste. Yep, 6 known loss of consciousness. Lots of fights. Used to break up a few bar fights every shift at a dance hall near the border with Mexico. Sounds wonderful. During 81-83 time period, did auto racing, figure 8, and did have some wild crashes. Well, there you go. So while Steven lived the dream, right, in his teens and 20s, he put a tremendous amount of stress on his physical body that he's now paying for. I'm not saying anything that he doesn't already know. Miriam, Atma Namaste. I'm stating the obvious, right? But that's something that I'm noticing more and more and more and more and more in our society, that on one level, we're more health conscious and wellness conscious than ever before of what we're eating and putting into our bodies food-wise, supplementation-wise, our workout regimens. But we're still kind of at the point that we work out not to be functionally healthy and fit, but we're working out to look good on Instagram, right? To look good on Instagram. So I realize I don't want to be the person, and again, this is my preference. It doesn't have to be your preference. I don't want to be the person that is always doing this with my muscle gain, with my flexibility, with my endurance like this. I, at any point in my life, want to be fit, healthy, strong, flexible, agile. That's what I'm interested in. So I'm looking for the practices that I can sustain that for a period of time and keeping my weight pretty much the same. I'm just naturally not eating. I'm not suppressing my appetite. I'm doing now, I did a 17-hour fast today, which is super weird. But on average, I'm fasting about 12 to 14 hours. So meaning within a 10-hour window, I'm eating my food. And then outside of that 10-hour window for 12 to 14 hours, I'm eating nothing. But I'm not forcing myself to do that. It's just naturally happening with the intermittent fasting. It's very strange. But so find things that you can sustain for a period of time, for decades, not just for a season. Steven says, helping my own stuff helps me help others. It is what it is. Growing up martial arts, doing since 70. What they said in classes was pain is good. Yep, I know. I took Shotokan Karate. You're 100% right. Here's a funny tidbit for you guys. 16-hour fast. No, every day. Damn, get it, Will? That's impressive. Good way to develop the willpower. When I was 7 years old, I started Shotokan Karate with my older brother, who's 11 years older than me. So I was like, had a lot of energy as a kid. I took the kids class, and then I shifted into taking the adults class. And they no pain, no gain. They didn't let up on me because I was a kid. I would spar with the adults. They would beat the crap out of me. I would be super sore. I'd have bruises. I get clocked in the face. It was not so fun. But I had an opportunity one time where the sensei says, hey guys, meaning the adult class, hey guys, we're going to run in the snow. We're going to run in the snow. Let's do it. No warning, no preparation. We're going to run in the snow. And so I said, I want to do it. And my sensei looked to my brother, because my brother was the the adult responsible for me in class, and he says, well, it's up to your brother. If you want to let him run in the snow, he's more than welcome to. So all these like 150, 175, 250 pound guys, some of them brown belts, black belts, a couple purple belts, they're like, we're all gonna run in the snow, like Wim Hof style, right? So I get my little yellow belt on, I'm super jacked up, and I'm like with my brother, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do this, right? And it was a few blocks, but as a kid, a few blocks is pretty far, right? Especially in the snow with no shoes or socks on. So we all leave through the front door, and we all start running the several blocks. I make it to the end of the driveway, and I can't feel my feet. And I'm like, and this is in Massachusetts, Leominster, Massachusetts, where it's not just like flat road with a little bit of ice and snow on it, but it's like there's potholes, there's shards of glass, there's gravel. It's pretty aggressive. I wouldn't recommend anybody running on the pavement, but what did I want to do? I wanted to be like the big guys. It's the ego and the pride and all that stuff getting wrapped into it. So I ended up making it to the end of the driveway, and then one of the girls that was in my class, she was maybe a year or two older than me, who I had a thing for, she was cute, and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm running in the snow. I'm like, I'm doing it like I'm running it. And she goes, but they're running that way. Why are you turning around and walking back to the studio? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm like doing the weird stepping thing, not trying to like touch anything, like walking on the sides of my feet, because I couldn't feel my feet anymore and they were burning. So I was like, interesting. So I go into the studio and I'm waiting, disappointed, didn't keep up with the big guys. And then everyone came back, and they're like, my feet are freezing. I can't feel my feet, but they're running around the studio, warming up their feet and, following the practice of the sensei. And afterwards, my brother and I get ready, put our socks and shoes on. We head out the door. We go home. I'm laying in bed, right? Maybe 9 o'clock. All of a sudden, my feet start hurting really bad. And I don't know what to do. So then I end up going downstairs, and I don't want to tell anyone, right? Because I'm going to get in trouble. I don't want to tell my brother that my feet are hurting. So I go into the bathtub, and I put on the cold water, and I put my feet, and that hurt even more. And my feet are like reddish, like a reddish, darkish blue color. I didn't know what was going on. And they started to burn. And then my brother heard me crying in the bathroom. I'm literally 7 years old. I don't even think I was 8 yet. I was 7. I'm crying in the bathroom. And my brother comes in and he's like, what's going on? Like, what are you crying for? I was like, my feet. So my brother brings me to the emergency room, and they find out that I had like 1st-degree burns on my feet. So they had to put like a salve and wrap them up and everything like that. And that was my experience of running in the snow, trying to be like the big guys, trying to go from 0 to 60 without proper training, without proper conditioning, being too young. And that kind of set the stage for my life of putting myself into situations that maybe weren't the best for me. So I can kind of relate to Stephen, no pain, no gain, of the old school martial arts practices. Nowadays, there'd be lawsuits. No sensei in their right mind would allow that to happen. You're going to have your fringe instructors and teachers do things like that, but in today's sue-happy world, not a chance. Stephen says, the hard training as a youth has saved my life many times. That being said, now that I'm older and wiser, I would do much differently. There you go. I'm lucky to be here. I make the most of each day. I help others most because it's the right, honorable thing to do, and it comes naturally. Creating good karma is likely useful and coming in handy. My life is for the purpose of helping others. That life of helping others is why I'm still here. Attaboy. Got to have a reason bigger than yourself, son. That's why we do these streams pretty regularly. The blessings of Master. So that's it, guys. Let me know how I can assist you in your healing practice, your meditation practice, your understanding practice, to become a better person. I'm not perfect. I'm still practicing to walk the path of righteousness. little by little, day by day, I get closer and closer to that razor's edge. But sometimes I fall off, but I gotta get back on. But welcome to becoming a better human being, and welcome to evolving. It is what it is. We're not perfect. We're in the process of growing, evolving, and we make mistakes. It happens. And then you can go to my website, ChristianRLong.com, for any questions. Thank you very much for your comments, for your time, for your energies, for your insights. I really, really appreciate it. May the good karma come back to you and your family many, many times. And let me know how I can assist you on your path. This is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Bye-bye.